All I can say is just start with one thing. And if walking, if you're open to it, just walk. 30 minutes a day, get outside, have some fun, get some fresh air, listen to some good tunes or a positive message, maybe a TED Talk or an audiobook. But just that will have an impact if you're consistent with it. Just try it for 1 week, just 1 week, and see how much can improve in just 1 week by doing that one activity. And then from there, you can start to layer other things in. But just start with the bare minimum and be consistent with it. And
once you've done your 1 week of walking, then you can progress to stand-up comedy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Maybe.
So what happened there? Why did you decide to do that? Thomas Green here with Ethical Marketing Service. On the episode today, we have the man, the moose, the legend. Please welcome Dai Manuel.
Thomas, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's almost been a year since we last had a conversation in this format. And man, it's amazing to think how much can happen in a year, right? But you're looking great, and thanks for having me back.
So what's happened in the last year?
Well, I think last time we chatted, I had just done my TED Talk, my first TEDx talk.
Sitting across that kitchen table, Christy looked me in the eyes, and she broke the silence by asking me the most life-sobering of questions. Are you being the type of man you'd want your daughters to marry?
And, that opened up a lot of doors and some opportunities for me over this last year to connect with some men in a very authentic and transparent way, whether that was bringing more awareness to the Mentorship Mondays community that I feel very grateful to have been a part of these last 3 years. It's just a group of men coming together once a week to just connect and support each other, with no hidden agenda. And it's interesting, right? Like, 'cause I know we've talked a bit about vulnerability as men before, and it's still one of those things that feels like it's like this holy grail we're searching for, right? But it's accessible. It's accessible for all of us. But I think for many of us, we just don't know how to get started. How do we start to experiment developing that skill of vulnerability, especially in a more powerful or self-empowered and positive way? Because I think some of our relationships with that term is negative. And hey, fair enough. I mean, I come from that same boat, when I think about my upbringing. So there's that over the last year. And so seeing new men come to the community and having opportunities to connect with other men on other platforms been wonderful. And then also, I went through my own mental health struggles, starting, it would have been 2021, but the summer of 2021, right around June, July. I really struggled getting into a sort of a flow again. And as a result, I found myself not doing the things that have always done me well for my lifestyle, my health, especially my mental health. And that's a slippery slope. We all know this. Like you stop doing some of the things that make you feel better, right? And we stop doing those. And then we start to wonder, why am I not feeling as good as I used to? Well, I'm not doing those things, but now I'm not as motivated and I don't find myself doing those things, so you find yourself in this sort of catch-22 situation where it's like, I know I should be, and if I do, I will feel better, but I'm feeling so bleh, I don't really want to do it. And so I went through that sort of a struggle for a few months and got to a place where I just drew a line in the sand and said, enough's enough. I got to take some step backs from what I was doing on the online side of things. I really took a step back from being online, from social, from just call it a somewhat of a digital detox. And I put all that newly regained time and energy and focus into my own mental health and my own physical well-being. And that took me down a whole new path. And I'm happy to say, I had this question: what would it be like to be my fittest, healthiest, mentally and physically version of me starting 2022, because it's also my 45th birthday was in November. And so it's sort of around this new year, new me, new period of my own life. And what I don't want to have it so regimented that I found myself in a box. I was like, what would it take to go outside that box and redefine what it means to be the healthiest version of me? And so I embarked on that, and I'm happy to say I got there. I discovered that, and so that brings us to right now. And it's so good to see you. But I'm here standing as my healthiest and fittest, as well as I've been in the best place I've ever been in my life. So amazing how much can happen in a year.
I know. I mean, it's congratulations on getting through that. And I'm sorry to hear you had a bit of a tough time. You mentioned the things that you weren't doing. What was it that you stopped doing? Is it all physical fitness stuff? Because also, if you could elaborate on one thing, which is when I perceive you to be this enthusiastic, you got bright eyes, you're full of energy, and you got the physical fitness stuff down. It's difficult for me to think of you in that way. So what are your thoughts around that?
No, and I can appreciate that. I've been saying the same thing for over 12 years. I've been saying the same thing, showing up the same way, and just really trying to make an impact in other people's lives. But at the same time, my own and my family, and all those things that are a priority, of course. But like anybody, I'm just a person, and I'm a person that has dealt with a lot of different challenges in his life, just like any one of us. I'm not unique in that respect, and I recognize that. But the way we each navigate the challenges that we encounter or find ourselves living through, that's very different, because sure, you start to look at what's outside of us, and I know some people are like, well, you got to look internal, and I'm like, well, yes and no. I mean, environment does play into it. Our association does play into it. Even our families play into it. But we still, at the end of the day, have to take full ownership for our life, but at times it was easy to point fingers and say, well, this isn't working out for me, so it's okay to take my foot off the gas, so to speak, or to let that slide. Or I've been really consistent up to now. It's okay if I take a few days off. And then a few days turns into a week, turns into 2 weeks. And next thing you know, it's like, I don't remember the last time I did it. And that could include my physical fitness, it include my meditation, my journaling, just even having deep conversations with people. And when I knew it got to its worst, Thomas, was when all of a sudden, the Mentorship Monday, the weekly Monday gatherings, it's every Monday night, we get together either on Zoom or in person, and we just connect as men, and we create the space that's really safe, but also a great place to just have, be heard, be seen, and be acknowledged. And I started finding myself not wanting to go to that. Thinking, I don't feel great about myself. I don't feel like I'm in a good place right now. I don't want to show up. where the group especially is critical and key for us that are feeling that way, and all the more reason to show up, because I would find myself saying that to other guys. When you're feeling that way, like you don't want to show up, you definitely want to show up. And I found myself having my own internal debate. And that's when I knew that things were not in a great place, and that's what I meant when I said some of the things that I knew that by doing it would make me feel better. And yet I was just not doing them. And it was the weirdest thing, right? To be able to watch this sort of unfolding in my own life, and almost felt like I was a third party observer. And then, I have to give my head a shake and be like, no, this is your life. Like, dude, I'm the one that's got to take some action here and start doing some stuff. And so for me, it was just all I started doing, Thomas, was every day I get out for a walk. That's how I started it. Get out for a walk, start to change how I'm eating a little bit, really get back to basics. Started listening some uplifting audiobooks as well while I was walking. So sort of cascading those two habits together. And, because to make the most of my time as well. And sure enough, within about 2 weeks, things started to improve. I started to feel a bit better, started to think a little bit more clearly, and more importantly, started to think a little bit more positively about myself again. It's that whole idea of self-love. I know it's quite cliche today. It's a buzz phrase, but it's true. If you can't care for yourself enough to do the things that it's going to make life better and make you feel better, make you show up as a better version of yourself, why not? Like, if there's anybody that we want to be able to be that generous with, it should be ourselves. But I found myself not doing that. And so, it was interesting because it also brought me to a different place of being able to empathize with my clients. in my communities, because here I was going through the exact same thing. I support a lot of people through. And it was a hard reset for me, and I think there were some other psychological things that were playing into that. My eldest daughter was just moving out, getting ready for university. So, it was an adjustment there. On top of that, professionally, there were some shifts happening in my business. And then also on top of that, I was thinking about my dad, and we were coming up on the 5-year anniversary of his passing from pancreatic cancer. And there was just a lot of stuff. Again, I'm not using that as excuses or as a justification, but it's just what it was, And so I can sort of try to fill into all that. But at the end of the day, it's like, okay, that's my life. It's all good. What am I doing today? What can I do today? And it was that, that was the exact thing. And this is the cool part, Thomas. It doesn't take much. And for those that are listening or watching this, it's, as soon as you make up your mind to start doing something a little bit differently, and then you do it, and then you do it again, and then again, and again, next thing you know, you start to build this momentum, right? And that momentum is wonderful because it does, in essence, create an inertia for you. And those objects in motion like to stay in motion, as physics will tell us. And it's very much the same way for us as human beings. When we get going, and I think if anybody thinks about some of those things that you're really passionate about, those projects you've done in your life that you just like, oof, you got excited, and it was like boundless energy, right? To just charge forward doing whatever that thing is. And I like to think that I've rediscovered that in my own life, but I needed to go through a lot of challenging moments, to truly appreciate the contrast, I think, again. So, it's all good. I worked through it. And, how's life been for you, Thomas, this last year?
Life's been good. Like I said, staying productive. Lots of parenting time. So that stuff's all good. And I think you're also you've got experience there as well. But
yeah, it's fun times.
Regarding the how you got yourself through it, so you said it was regular walks. I'm assuming you're still gymming at the moment, is that right?
I got back to gymming, but I didn't start with that. The first almost 2 months, there wasn't really any structured workouts. It was me going out for a walk, and then after a couple of weeks of walking, I started cycling again. And I'm not talking about like hard rides, okay? I'm talking about more commuting type rides. But I would get out for 30 to 60 minutes a day, a few times a week. And that was just wonderful. Now, also, it was summertime, so the weather was a lot more forgiving here in Vancouver. And so and the days were longer, nights were getting shorter. So there was a few things that were playing to that and really complementary to me making these shifts. Because it's a lot easier, when it's sunny and it's warm out, to go outside and have a cycle, go for a walk, right? It's definitely a lot more welcoming. So I played to that. I enjoyed that aspect. It made it easier to just commit and follow through. But those were the pieces. And then my nutrition, just looking at things like sugar intake, how much caffeine am I getting in a day? Just subtle little things. Just not looking to reinvent my day to day and how I nourish or fuel myself, but really just trying to make better decisions in the moment. That was it. And after a couple months, then I started to reintroduce the gym again, getting some more structured workouts. And at the same time, I also dove in and discovered another passion project, something to more of call it a hobby. I decided to do a stand-up comedy course. And
I was going to ask you about it.
Yeah. So I did that, and it was the scariest thing I've ever done. And but I knew it would challenge me, and that happened that fall. So I had already started on this sort of path, but I knew I wanted a personal challenge. I wanted something that was going to put me way outside of that comfort zone, as they say. And that was what I identified would do that, and leaned in, did it. We had a showcase show in front of 150 people and did a 5-minute set. I didn't die. I'm still here. So, my worst fears weren't realized. And, I signed up and I'm doing it again right now. So, we'll see if I can do a 2-peat.
Well, I did want to ask you about it. But just to summarize what you said about the getting out of rut. So it's starting with walking, introducing gymming a bit later, and cycling. positive messages in your ear when you're walking, and focusing on your nutrition and your meditation. Anything else in addition to that?
I would add in little bits here and there, but they weren't as consistent. And what I mean by that is I knew that those other things that we just identified and you repeated, those are the ones that if I do it every day, good things happen. You know what I mean? Like just good things happen. Like I feel better. And when I'm feeling better, it's interesting, but we do have this reticular activation system, as the psychologist will maintain, right? Or the neuroscientist. And this is part of our subconscious that basically helps us recognize the things that we want at times. And they often use the old story of like, yeah, just imagine you want to buy a pink Cadillac, right? So all of a sudden you tell yourself, I want a pink Cadillac. And it's like, you never remember seeing pink Cadillacs in the street or in parking lots or anything. Next thing you know, wow, there's a pink Cadillac. Oh my gosh, I just saw another one. And your subconscious becomes programmed, or at least sensitive, to this want that we've established consciously. And so this reticular activation system can work to our advantage. And I know some people will call it the law of attraction, and I'm sure that plays into it as well. But this idea of putting out there and getting our subconscious to help us realize some of these things, it can be used to our advantage, And for me, I knew that there was I had done a lot of visioning. That's the advantage of journaling. With journaling, we can write what's real and what's alive for us right now, but also we can start to set or cast some visions, of what we want or what we're working towards. And in going through that process, we are letting the subconscious in on something, saying, hey, these are some things I really want. And yet, it gets to work. When we're sleeping, that subconscious is still running, and when we wake up, it's still there in the background. That programming is always going. And all of a sudden I started to find myself more aware of opportunities to lean in and do things that would make me feel good. And things that would make me feel good in a healthy way. I should qualify that, okay? And so that started to happen. I'd get invited, hey, do you want to go for a hike? Yeah, you know what? I do. I know there's a great invitation that's aligned with the things that I'm wanting right now. Plus, I want deeper connection with other people. Yes, I'm going to say yes to that. And so all of a sudden, I found myself attracting these types of opportunities. And I was very quick to say yes when presented with those, as long as it was in alignment with not only my values, but my wants and my needs at that time. And I will tell this to everybody, you have to get selfish about your own mental health. You do. Like as much as we're going to look to others to support us with that, they can't do it for us. It's still on us to do certain things, certain habits, making rituals, to really take full ownership of the changes that we're wanting. If we're not the ones that are instigating and pushing those forward, it might be a long waiting for somebody else to do that for us, if ever, and believe me, I've been there and I realized this. And all I can say is just start with one thing. And if you're open to it, just walk. 30 minutes a day, get outside, have some fun, get some fresh air, listen to some good tunes or a positive message, maybe a TED Talk or an audiobook. But just that will have an impact if you're consistent with it. Just try it for 1 week, just 1 week, and see how much can improve in just 1 week by doing that one activity. And then from there, you can start to layer other things in. But just start with the bare minimum and be consistent with it. And
once you've done your 1 week of walking, then you can progress to stand-up comedy, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Maybe.
So what happened there? Why did you decide to do that?
Well, I had done the TEDx talk, and I've been speaking professionally for almost 10 years now. So I've gotten to a place where, I'm still afraid. I'll be honest with you. Like I'm afraid. I get very intimidated before I go on a stage or before I speak in front of a group. There's anxiety there for sure, but that's anxiety I used to have as a kid too, and to the point where I wouldn't get in front of a group. A teacher would ask, and I remember in grade 8, bursting out of that classroom and, in tears and running down the hall to the bathroom and locking myself in the stall like that. That is my memory of public speaking, just to sort of give this some context. And, fast forward a lot of years later, as I identified other things I wanted in my life and wanted for myself, I realized that to make the impact that I wanted to make in the world, I was going to have to overcome this fear of speaking, of being seen in front of large groups. And I got to work doing that. And fortunately for me, I discovered a group called Toastmasters. A mentor recommended that to me. I won't go into too much detail about what Toastmasters is about, but everybody has access to Toastmasters, everybody. And it's a nonprofit, it's global, but it'll help you become a more effective communicator as well as a better leader. It's a wonderful program and curriculum. And it's I think I spend about $150 a year to have access to that curriculum and community. Great deal. Again, nonprofit. I tell some people, just pretend it's $10,000 because you should treat it as such. If you treat it like a $10,000 investment, only though it costs you $150, trust me, you'll get so much out of that, your life will change. And that's what happened with me. My life changed because of that. Now, fast forward, a decade later, I'm like itching for a new challenge. And I'm also sort of embarking on this renewed health and wellness path for myself. And I identified that, stand-up comedy was one of those things that I used to always say, there's no way in hell I will ever do that. And, I think we all say that about certain things, right? Like we're very, very steadfast in our decision, like, no way, I am never going to do that. And that was me about stand-up comedy. And I started thinking, well, why am I so negative against that? Why am I so anti that? Like, what is really going on here? And I got to a point where I was just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do this course. And I had a friend of mine, I had shared with him, this sort of intimidation I had with the whole prospect of doing stand-up comedy. And he had let me in on that, he too this is something that he'd love to challenge. And so this made it a lot easier to say, heck yeah, let's do this. Because I had one of my best friends doing it with me as well. So that made it a little bit, it made it more fun. Okay, it did, because we'd go to class together. We also were preparing our sets together. It was fun. It felt more collaborative. But also it's nice to know that you got somebody there that's feeling the same thing you are, and so that's what happened. And it was a 6-week course. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, there's a whole showcase where they do an actual show and they just throw you right in. And it was great, man. Like, I mean, now I can say that. And I'll be honest, for those that are watching this, like if you go to Instagram or my Facebook, like I've shared the videos there of the set. And I didn't share it out until after 3 months, 3 months after I had done the show. I didn't even watch it until 3 months later. Like really? that's how intimidated and just the whole idea. I was like, okay, I've done it. I got to push it away for now. Like I didn't even look at it. I didn't watch it. I didn't share it. It was like one of those things where I was just like, oh. And then I shared it back in January, and I got some great feedback and some very complimentary words of affirmation, which just, made me feel a bit more, it made me feel better about the whole thing. And it made me realize that I am my own worst critic, like most of us are. And at that point, I decided I'm going to sign up and do it again.
I like the pulling the Ewok out of the plug hole bit.
Yeah.
Or the 6.5-pound baby Ewok. I have to snake free from the drain in the bathtub every other Tuesday.
Thanks, man. That's legit. It's legit. Three women in my life, and all have long hair, so you can imagine what those drains look like. So, and I'm not much better because I'm pretty metro. I shave my whole body. Oh, sorry. What was that?
The arm wrestle bit as well.
Oh yeah.
Laughed out loud with both of those.
I've always told my daughters, Chardonnay and Brie, any boys that want to get close to you have to beat me in an arm wrestle. I remember Bree's friend Tim going over the top. Boom! I've never seen a grade 3 boy cry so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Thomas. Makes me feel better. And like I lost track, as you see at the end of it. I'm just like, I don't even know where I'm going. Thanks. Bye. I was just like, is it done yet? It's but it was fun. I have so much admiration for comics. like so much. Like after doing this, I'm like, it's one of the hardest and most challenging crafts, in my opinion, period. Like it is intimidating because everything rests on getting a laugh. It all rests on that. And when you're up there and it's quiet and no one's laughing, it is a very revealing moment. Okay. So, and I'm probably not doing a very good job selling this for people that have been contemplating or maybe thinking about a new challenge, but believe me, the fears are never realized. It's never as bad as dying. Okay. So, if you look at all the stats, they always say that, the only fear that outpaces dying is public speaking. Well, believe me, it's not true. Okay. It's not true. It's an irrational fear. It's all good. You'll be all right. And just do what I did and have about 40 of your friends show up in the audience. So, they're going to laugh no matter what.
Well, I do think it was obvious when you got onto stage as well that you've got access to some things that other people don't have. And that's your enthusiasm and the way you move your body and everything like that. And I feel like they stuck you on this like little stage with the microphone that you had to be like in one place for. And I do think you could do great things, I think, if you wanted to. Wow. But what are you trying to achieve with it, would you say?
Well, for me, like, as I mentioned, I really do enjoy public speaking. I enjoy like doing keynotes or connecting with an audience. And I realized that I've always wanted to bring more humor into it. And I know naturally, yes, you're right. I'm quite animated when I'm on a stage. And that's partially, I've learned that because I've also realized by being that way, it makes me less intimidating for people. And so it's like a learned reaction, really.
Less
for me,
intimidating because you're a big buff guy. Is that what you mean?
I'm a big dude. I'm 6'1". I'm like 210 pounds. And yeah, like I know I intimidate people. I know that, well, especially like I had 17 years working in sales, right? And retail sales where I was dealing with customers all day long. And, I knew that was always one of the biggest challenges I'd had, especially when trying to build rapport with people is, especially I'm here selling fitness, I'm selling health, right? And you can imagine, I'm just putting this into context where, a married couple would come in and they might be 10, 20 years my senior, but, here's the guy that's bringing in his wife and they're looking for some fitness equipment and, he's maybe 40, 50 pounds overweight. And just because of life, he's sort of fallen out of health. I get it. We've all been there. And I'm coming from a place of empathy, but he's just looking at me, he's looking at his wife and he's looking at me and he's like, I can tell I make him very uncomfortable. I get it. But I found by being animated, talking about my kids, talking about my wife, like right away, looking for that thing to diffuse the machismo, right? And then we all got this. I mean, as guys, and I know there's guys that they're like, no, I don't ever act like that. I'm like, bull. Okay, we all act like this. I know this is like the biggest thing that held me back from connecting with men was the machismo, was this concern that if I was open and honest with other men, that they would turn around and use what I would share against me when given the chance. Like this is my belief. Now, not to say that was ever true, but that's what I believed. And as such, when it came to interacting with other men, it was always like trying to size each other up. Like, and that was what I grew up with. Okay. That was what was role model to me. So I didn't have any other idea of what it meant to be a man and how to act, and other than how I was. And so as I started to work with mentors and I sort of dove into this space of wanting to connect, wanting to deepen relationships, I realized I'm my own worst enemy because people are so quick to judge based on our appearances. And it's crazy because it drives me nuts because, as you know, Thomas, I've shared with you before, and those that maybe aren't familiar with my story, I was morbidly obese as a teen. So you talk about judging covers, I believe that, a lot of people judge me all the time based on my state of unhealth. So, when we talk about things that we learn as kids, right, and what we bring forward with us, definitely there's a lot of beliefs that I brought forward with me. And as such, I wanted to change some of those. And so, this animated body that trying to be very bright-eyed and big on my expressions, it's really a learned response to try to make other people feel more comfortable with me. Really. And that's it. And I want to take it to another level. I want to make a greater impact. And I look at stand-up comedy as being that vehicle that could potentially help me with that. And but it's intimidating, it's scary, and it's hard. Okay, like there's nothing easy about it. I mean, I used to think it's like these guys make it look so easy, and then when you actually get to it, it's like, oh, that is way harder than they make it look. And but yet, you know, I like a challenge. I do. And so yeah. Anyways, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, just in terms of where you wanted to go with it. So was it strictly a personal development exercise for you, or do you see yourself
professional as well? Yeah, this is going to help me professionally. Already, I've, you know, some of the pieces that I've didn't necessarily use in the 5-minute set. I have some other pieces that didn't make it. Okay, but not that they weren't good ideas. They weren't well formed yet, not complete yet. But those are things that I can see complements a lot of my messaging, as well as complements a lot of the ways that I want to help people. And so intermingling some of this humor and getting much better at how to be humorous from the stage is going to only help me professionally when it comes to doing keynotes and anything else. Like, it's just, we both, what's the quote? Maya Angelou, you know, people may not remember what the things that you do, but they'll always remember the way that you make them feel. Now, again, I might have butchered that, but you know what I mean? It's that whole idea that people remember how you make them feel above all else. I think we all remember when someone makes us laugh. We all do. It's a great feeling. That dopamine and serotonin tickles our brain, right? and we feel good. And there's a connection. There's a certain level of respect that is also achieved when we elicit that kind of response in somebody else. And that was something that I wanted to be able to do more effectively, and hence that's why I'm doing this, you know. But it's also for my personal challenge. Like, I mean, believe me, I'm always looking for things that are going to push me outside my comfort zone. And to date, this has been the one that's pushed me the hardest.
I don't doubt it for a second. But I'm gonna throw you a curveball. You ready?
Oh, let's do it. Throw it.
What's the meaning of life?
Woo! Yikes. Okay. Well, I always love this question because technically it's a very subjective question. Yet we try to objectify it, right? Or give something that's very concrete. And
you know what I've got in brackets next to the question?
What?
If subjective, what's your meaning of life?
Okay, I love it. Look at you, Thomas. I love how prepared you always are, man. Like, this is so awesome. Okay, because I love how you've put that, because, you know, any meaning that I give to life is my meaning of life. And I think that's very true about this. I mean, yet we're looking for the commonalities that we all have, and can we align that, and can we support each other? But we have to have a clear idea of what that is for us before we can start that. And I remember when I first read Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. I don't know if you're familiar with that book, but Dr. Viktor Frankl, beautiful book written back post Second World War. And, you know, he talks a lot about it. And he's the grandfather of logotherapy. And this is this whole idea of therapy through identifying our purpose, our why, our meaning in life. And because if we can get really clear on that, a lot of barriers break down, but it also gives us a lot of clarity and confidence that the direction we're heading is the right direction for us. So you can see how that's very empowering to just lean in and go for things, you know, and be happy and excited for that journey. And for me, after reading that book, I realized that maybe my definition, my subjective definition for the meaning of life, wasn't well thought out, meaning that I hadn't really spent much time asking myself that. So it's really cool that you're asking me this now, because I haven't really shared this with anybody. But for me, meaning of life is really all about just the connections, the relationships that I'm able to foster, and the experiences I'm able to have with others, you know, and the whole idea about elevating, evolving myself to the best version of me possible in whatever length of time I got here. And then at the end of the day, whenever I go on to wherever that next part of the journey is, I hope I left this place better than it was when I got here. You know, was able to make an impact that matters. And for me, that's what life's all about, you know. And obviously there's values that I've identified that are very important to me, family being one of them. And so my filters when making decisions, because a lot of people will say, well, okay, well, that's great. That's your meaning of life. how do you do that? And I'm like, well, you need to have filters. You need to have direction. You need to be able to make decisions more quickly. And that's where filters or conditionals can help, right? If this, then that. Well, for me, it's value-based, I can make decisions very quickly if they align with my values. If it aligns with my values, I can say, yeah, this is great. This is a great fit. I can see how this benefits everybody. Or on the flip side, it's like, no, this doesn't match my values. In fact, it's going to take me away from my family, take me away from my kids. Great opportunity aligns with some of my other values. Like maybe there's some financial gain that I'm looking for, or there's some professional sort of itch I'm looking to itch. Yet if it's going to, submarine or detract me from my ability to put the time in and energy into some other areas of my life, I have to make a decision. I have to be able to say yes or no. And for me, it's been really empowering being able to say no a lot quicker as a result of going through this exercise of getting clear on what's my meaning for life. What are the things that are most important to me in my life? Non-negotiables. And the interesting thing is a lot of us, and I'm sure people are hearing this, well, this all sounds fine and dandy, but how do you do this? Well, you just need to lock yourself in a room and no, okay, maybe not lock yourself in a room, but just grab a piece of paper and start asking yourself, what are some of the values that are most important to me? There's free resources online. Brene Brown's got some great free resources all about values and how to establish your value ladder and figure out what's your top core values and just go through an exercise. It takes about 20, 30 minutes. But once you've done it and you get to that top 5, well, now you've got these top 5 values and you can start to use those to help you give direction, but also confidence that you're going the right direction when it comes to your life. And does it align with what your meaning for life is? Because once that happens, whoo, watch out. Like it's just, it just feels, life feels a little bit lighter. Okay, it just does. And yeah, anyways, that's sort of my thoughts on that. What's yours,
I love about
Thomas?
that answer.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
What I love about that answer is not only did you give me the answer, but you also told other people how they can find their answer. So,
because I know they're thinking it.
That was very cool.
Well, they're thinking it, right? I know everybody's thinking it. Like, and that's the thing with, I always try to at least share what's been working for me, as far as figuring this out. Because listen, I'm as I always tell my clients, I'm like, you know what? I'm only a couple paces ahead of you, all right? I don't have all the answers, far from it, but I'm a couple paces ahead on the journey. And I know we're on similar journeys. So at the very least, I can point out where the potholes are so you don't trip. and at the very least, these are some of the exercises that have helped me get to where I am. So maybe they can support you as well. And that's all I can do is invite people to just do a little bit of work, because that's what it comes down to, right? At the end of the day, you just got to have some focused time and attention to these subjects that we're talking about today. The thing is, I know some of us get really intimidated about it. I know I used to, because I just was like, wow, it's just too big of a concept. And I felt it almost too limiting if I was going to start to define things. But then, that was foolish, because if you don't define anything, then there's no boundaries, there's no guidelines. It's like any direction will do. And then I would find myself feeling lost, confused, very unmotivated, to the point where procrastination was my best friend, right? I know I could probably go and do some of this, but I'm not really sure if that's what I want to be doing. Yeah, I'm going to go watch another Netflix series, and that's also why what we're talking about here, Thomas, like if people take anything away from our conversation today, just figure out what your core values are. Figure out what's the non-negotiables in your life. And if you then embark in the time after that and use those values like a flashlight down a dark hallway, you can now illuminate that darkness. And you can have clarity and assuredness of every step along the way. Now, there's going to be doorways you're going to pass in that dark hall, right? And you'll have the option. You'll see the doorways. And you can say, do I want to go in this one? Do I not want to go in this one? Well, this is where the values come in. There might be a sign on those doors. And it might be family, there might be career, there might be something else. And now you have to ask, okay, well, am I aligned with these? Is this a door I want to go through? But if it wasn't illuminated, you didn't have clarity of values, couldn't see the footing in front of you, any door is going to do, but you're going to spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and probably feel very frustrated that you're not progressing the way that you always envision yourself progressing. And so this is where this, I mean, I love that you asked this today, Thomas. I mean, I really do. I really thank you for asking this. And I hope people take this away today and they go and figure out what their core values are. Because I know it will just make such a difference. It won't make all the difference, but it's a start.
Well, I ordered the book. It took me a while to order the book, but it is on the way. I'm not sure whether you're aware of that, but
wow. I do know that I'm limited on, I have to do a reorder on books. So it's, thank you for that. I appreciate it, but you probably had to source it from Timbuktu and it's taken a little while to get to you. I'm sorry about that.
That's no worries. So I'm going to introduce a few of those values into my life.
Awesome.
Are you successful?
Yes. Yes. And I should qualify what I mean by success. I know that that's probably the follow-up question, if anything, but my idea of success changed a lot over the last 12, going on 13 years now. You know, I was very much, my success was tied to ego, all right? Like really big tie-in, meaning that a lot of the things that I geared as being successful was really just things that would prop up my ego. And the more I tried to prop up my ego, and this is talking about money, it's talking about stuff, toys, cars, you know, things that other people can perceive and recognize as being, ooh, look at that, must be successful. Because that was my belief in what success was. It was often tied to monetary gain and how much you had of stuff. And that's what I thought, you know, like, I'm not saying it's wrong, okay? It never felt right for me. Felt a little bit empty. It was also a big part of why I would spend so much time drinking, you know, or doing other things other than actually trying to live my best life, because I was feeling very unfulfilled. When I went through some challenging times, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. If people want to know what happened, they can listen to one of our first conversations or the TEDx talk. You know, I talk about it a lot more in those conversations. But, you know, for me, it was a reevaluation of what success meant. And I have to hand it to my wife. You know, Christy was just so empowering, but also that voice of reason, because for her, she's never been motivated by money, ever. Capital gain doesn't matter to her. Now, of course, she likes money. She's not against money, but she loves money and the impact it can make in other people's lives. And we've been very fortunate that we have some very good friends of ours that are very generous to a fault at times. You know, I know that they've been taken advantage of, but they don't care. They do have a very abundant life and abundant financially, and to see the impact that they're making in communities locally and globally, that's so inspiring to us. So we love that aspect. And so, you know, we've sort of reframed our relationship with money as a result, but we shifted. And our idea of success for over the last 10 years has been this idea of being rich in life and rich in life experiences. So we've become collector of experiences, collectors of connection. You know, that is what we really gauge our success on, is like, how many lives have we made an impact in this year? You know, have we been able to support our kids to be the best humans that they possibly can be? You know, are we helping our local communities as well as our global communities? You know, are we doing well to support them as well? And so these all sort of play into success for us. And to have a lifestyle that allows us to do what we want, when we want, with the people that we choose to be with, has been very important to us. And so that's sort of been the trajectory that we've been on. And you know, our values help us keep the straight and narrow, so to speak. And that's sort of what to us is success today. You know, it's really about the relationships and the connections that we're able to foster and nurture, and the changes and impacts that we can make as a result.
Thank you for the qualifier. I love the immediate yes, by the way.
Yeah.
And your answer reminded me a little bit about, because I look at these questions in advance for prep for the episode, and one of the questions is, can money buy happiness? And I absolutely love the answer of yes, but only if you give it away. And it makes me think of what your answer was there.
Contribution.
So,
right? It's huge. It's huge. Yeah.
Another completely random one for you. This is Aladdin style. You get 3 wishes. Wow. What would you wish for in the entire world?
Oh my gosh, Thomas, that's such a good question. Holy, wow, what would I wish for? Well, probably the standard ones. I would wish for, I mean, I look at the conflict that's happening right now in Ukraine, and I just think it's so just uncalled for, and again, I'm not a expert in politics or government policy, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of meaning to this one. And for me, I'm not a big fan of fighting, at least this kind of fighting. So one wish would be, I don't think I'd be so naive to say peace on earth, like I think that's a very cliche and standard answer, but I would wish for more human ways of resolving conflict. More humane ways of dealing with conflict rather than guns and weapons of mass destruction. I mean, we're all capable people, and to get in a room and actually have a conversation to work things out, I think is definitely doable. And I think we're mature enough and evolved enough to be able to do that. So that would be one wish, all right? And second to that would be, I would love to, I mean, selfish here, I'd love to be able to live forever. I know that's like, people, I've said that too, and they're like, no, you don't. You're not going to want to live forever. Everybody that you know dies. Well, I'm like, well, okay, but if I can live forever, wouldn't other people live forever? And maybe I have to define, how would I want to live forever, right? Maybe that's more. Do I want to be uploaded to a cloud before I die? I mean, I don't know, right? But I am a big sci-fi fan, and I love that idea. But for me, it's purely to be able to see what's coming. Like I would love to see what's going to happen in the future. And for me, it's not more like, I wish I could see the future. I don't wish I could see the future. I wish I could live in the future, right? Like if I could live and see the changes as they're happening, that gets me really excited. What about my great grandkids, my great grandkids? Will they be on Earth still? Like these are questions I think about, right? And so that would be the second one.
Before you go on to your third wish, one of the questions on my list is, if you could live forever, would you choose to?
There you go.
So you give it a little bit of spoilers there. But what's number three?
Well, number three, that would be tough. I'd have to really think on it. But I guess, being put on the spot right now, like, well, I'd like to see world hunger not be a challenge anymore. I really wish that away. Like I just think it's silly, because I look at certain countries that have excess and a lot of waste, and then I see other countries that they love to have some waste, and it just makes me realize there's such a disparity all across the world from country to country. And I'm not, listen, I don't believe in communism. Okay. So like, I know it's kind of a slippery slope if I want to say, oh, I want everybody to be equal. But what I would like to see is like, I think we have enough big brains and enough capital and money and resources on this planet to see what they've done with the pandemic last 2 years. The entire world was mobilized on this one. The entire world, everybody. So that tells me that if we actually put our heads together and dealt with the whole food issue globally, I think we could fix it. I don't think there's anybody that needs to be starving. Anybody. And so that's one big wish I would like to see happen. And I like to see it happen in my lifetime. I don't need a genie wish to make it happen. I think if we all put our heads together, I think it can be done. I don't think it's anything that's not unreasonable, So anyways, that's sort of the other one. Yeah.
Thank you for answering. I think the last one, I think, is going in the right direction anyway. So
I think so too.
A positive note there.
I hope so. I really do.
If everyone spoke their mind, would the world be a better place?
Well, I guess if they're talking more like a bunch of Stoics, sort of from that logical place, putting emotions at the side, then yes. But the problem is we're humans, and we're not humans being emotional. We are emotional humans, we're emotional human beings. And being these sentient beings, that have a lot of feelings, I wish people could speak their mind, and everybody would. But to separate the emotion from that especially when you're in a heated place. Like I look at Putin, right? I'm like, oh, I don't know how much logic's being used, but there is a whole lot of emotion, and ego driving that train. And as a result, like that's my only qualm with that, right? My concern is that, yeah, I'd like to think that it would be a better place, but if we don't separate the emotion, I don't think it would be. I look at the bigotry, I look at the chauvinism. Like, my gosh, you just go on the internet and watch the news today, and we already know it's like, I don't know, speaking your mind is doing us any favors, So, yeah.
Didn't go in the right direction with that one, did we?
Well, I'd like to say yes. Like, I honestly feel we can, but I think there's a lot of people that are going to need some serious training on effective communication. All right. Like, I think that's what it's going to boil down to. But if we had that kind of support and we were able to create that kind of a safe environment to be able to speak your mind without any fear of repercussions, to actually be able to talk through it, to come to some sort of resolve, yeah, I think the world would be great for that. But I just don't know if we're capable of it yet,
What type of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Well, similar to what I said before, or I don't know if I shared this before, but I'd like to inspire 1 million role models. That's what I'm sort of working towards, role models. So 1 million people to be just aspiring to be their best versions. And so as such, they're in this forever, never-ending learning, and growing, and till the day they leave. But I know as role models, we have the opportunity to inspire other role models, other leaders, and to really influence change just by showing up and trying to be our best versions. So that's one legacy I'd like to leave, is 1 million role models, because I know that has the possibility of impacting tens, if not hundreds of millions, And outside of that, it's also, am I leaving this planet better than it was when I got here? And hopefully my kids can pick up the torch and continue down that path. And, not to be, well, I'm just going to say it, my kids are freaking awesome kids. And I feel I trust them, and I would give them the keys to this planet today if given the opportunity, because I think they could do a better job than many of us have, so.
What is friendship?
Friendship to me is deep connection, understanding, but without any expectations, right? Or expectations of any sort of reciprocation. Like that, for me, that's what friendship is. It's an unconditional connection, and I'd go as far as say love, and respect. So that's sort of what friendship is to me, but it always comes from a place of truth, like I'm once a friend lies to me, it's really hard to rebuild that, when trust goes, it's gone, and it may never come back.
Are you a good friend?
I like to think I am. Yes. Yeah. Can I improve? Have I made mistakes? Yeah, for sure. I like to think I'm still evolving.
Well, you mentioned telling the truth. Is it always wrong to lie? And when, if ever, is it okay?
Yeah, this is a slippery slope, right? Like, it's a tough one. And have I lied? Oh gosh, yeah. Have I lied maliciously? Yes, I have. I've done some things I'm not proud of. I'm not going to hide from them. Like, I've done them. Especially when I was at my worst, when I was drinking a fair bit. Like, I made some really poor decisions, and I wasn't very respectful for some people that I would have called friends. They would have called me a friend, and I wasn't acting very friendly. So as a result, and knowing that, and also being on a path where I'm like, I'm not doing that again, it's made my relationships a lot more, I guess, significant, like deeper, more connected. And I have fewer friends today than I did 10 years ago, to be honest. I have a lot more acquaintances today, but really, truthfully, down to real friends, I have a lot fewer. But I'm looking for quality, not quantity. and for me to truly open up and, be completely transparent and that with people, it takes time, right? Like any of us, like the trust is usually earned. And for me, I know it takes a little while for me to earn somebody's trust, and I expect the same in return,
What is the biggest waste of human potential?
Well, I I love technology. Okay. I really do. I think technology is cool. I think it's definitely making, in some instances and situations, it's making the world better. But I also know it's created a lot of complacency and laziness. All right. And especially when it comes to just empowering us to learn and grow. I mean, just Google it is like the ongoing thing. Oh, I don't need to know that. I'll just Google it. And I'm like, well, there comes a point where knowledge is a pretty good thing, you know, like just building our own wisdom or our practical knowledge as well is really important. And so when I meet people that are not motivated to grow, you know, personally or professionally, or to learn new things, to evolve, to see themselves evolve as a human being, I just think what a waste of so much potential, you know. And I'm not here to judge them, and I won't judge. I'm not here to pass judgment. Man, I've had enough people pass judgment on me. I know what it feels like, and it's not positive. And even as being someone that passes judgment in those situations, I never felt good for doing it, you know. And as such, I really feel, because I just think there's so much potential for them, you know, and with that potentiality comes a lot of happiness and fulfillment and joy. And I just see them limiting that in their lives. You know, that's the result. And I know that that's the thing that most of us identify we want more of. And so I'm just like, what the heck? You know, on one side, you say you want more of that, but on the other side, you're not willing to do anything to actually go after it or to learn how to attain it. And that's where that big gap, that's the wasted potential, you know? So yeah, anyways, that's
just
my answer.
Google it. Is that what you're gonna say to me if I ask you another one of these existential questions?
Yeah, no. I actually appreciate these questions, man. You're making me have to think so early in the morning. I love it.
Well, I appreciate your answers. I think you're a fantastic guest, and I do. You know, I had a look at all the social stuff, and you've put out a lot of great content over the years, going back quite a way now. So thank you for all that. Do you have any closing thoughts for us today?
Well, Thomas, I just got to say to you, thank you. You know, like, this is a very different conversation. I know when we were exchanging some emails, you had alluded that it would be a bit different than our first conversation, and it really was. And I enjoyed this. I really did. And you made me think, you know, and what I mean by made me think, I really just think about things that require not only imagination, but it's also an evaluation of what I've been doing, you know, like up to now. But also it's kind of forward setting, because some of those questions were very forward paced, right? Like, and it made me think, oh, the things that I'm doing now, are they actually bringing me closer to that? Whether it's a potential reality or not, am I doing things right now to make that a likely outcome? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm really doing all that I could be, or to the best way. So anyways, I really thank you for those questions. And as far as closing remarks, I mean, I'm just like, thank you for the opportunity. I love that you're putting out this type of questioning to everybody that's listening or watching this. You know, like, I think these are great questions for all of us to open up a blank page in our journal, put these questions at the top, and just play, explore, right? And so that's my invitation to those that are privy to this conversation today. You know, take something that you've heard and apply it, because it's that applying of this knowledge that your own internal wisdom will be created and achieved. And that's what's going to make the world better, right? Is each of us taking that full ownership and doing that. So that's my call to action, or more appropriately, my invitation to those listening or watching to give that a go and reach out to me on social. Let me know how it went.
Next question was, if people want to connect with you, where do they go?
Yeah, if you can spell my name, you'll find me easy. Now, I know my spelling of my name is a little bit interesting. Dai, Welsh name for David, D-A-I. Manuel, Portuguese last name. And as I say, I'm Canadian through and through, so it's all good. But Dai Manuel is my handle on every social platform. I'm most active on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So if you want to have a conversation and you want me to get back to you fairly promptly, talk on those 3 channels. If you send me a TikTok, I may or may not ever get back to you. Okay, like I'm still not fully into the TikTok thing. My kids all over it. Me, not so much. So Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, as my kids say, oh, that's the old school stuff. But that's where I play. So there you go.
All right. Well, for everyone listening, please review the links in the description. Dai, thank you for your contribution and your being a great guest today.
Thomas, thank you so, so much. I can't wait till our next conversation. Well, family is one of my pillars. So I sort of use this analogy of a house, right? Like, and there's 4 walls, if you will, or 4 pillars that holds up a roof, and you got a solid foundation. My foundation's health. And then I have 4 pillars, and it's family, finances, faith, and fitness. And then the roof is fun, right? So it's this household, these walls, these pillars ought to be reinforced all the time, because as a construct, you know, to weather the storms of nature and everything that comes at it, you have to have good strengths in all those areas, and they all need to be paid attention to. You can let it weigh you down, or you can figure out a way to run with it and hopefully get stronger because of it.